All right, quick break. Knock, knock. Who's there? Amazon Music. Amazon Music who? Amazon Music, where Prime members can listen to top comedy podcasts ad-free. No awkward interruptions, just nonstop laughs from your favorite shows. It's free, it's funny, and hey, it's better than my knock-knock jokes. Download the Amazon Music app and let the good times roll. Or go to amazon.com/ad-free comedy. That's amazon.com/ad-free comedy to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hey, I'm Kylee, former NICU travel nurse and founder of Passports and Preemies, and you're listening to Clocked Out, Life Beyond the Bedside. This podcast is for nurses who are ready to ask, what else is out there for me? Each week, we dive into what it means to thrive as a nurse beyond the hospital walls through conversations about burnout, alternative careers, travel, financial freedom, and wellness. Whether you're deep in burnout or just craving more freedom, you're in the right place. It's time to redefine what life after clocking out really looks like. Hi, you guys, and welcome back to Clocked Out, Life Beyond the Bedside. Today, I had a very interesting, intriguing conversation with Sara and Stacy. Sara and Stacy are twins. They were both OR nurses. They actually worked in the same OR, and they both retired from bedside nursing to become nurse coaches. So we talk a lot about nurse coaching. We talk a lot about their business, Whole and Well. They do a lot of other things aside from coaching, but that's really what we focused on. We talked about what we wish we could change about the nursing profession, what they hear from a lot of nurses that they coach. You know, it sounds like a lot of nurses kind of have the same pain points and struggles. And I would say that this episode, I mean, not only was it incredibly insightful and I feel like there were several times I had goosebumps and I felt like I was personally being coached. But I think that if you are a nurse that's really, struggling right now, versus maybe you're not happy, but you don't know if you want to leave the bedside. Maybe you want to stay at the bedside, but you're not happy. This conversation was really enlightening and eye-opening. We talk about having an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. I learned what the saying crabs in a bucket means, which I didn't know before this conversation. We talked about so many interesting things, and I learned so much from Sara and Stacy. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. And yeah, here we go. Okay, we're here with Sara and Stacy, and I want to give you guys a little background. So how I met these two twins is Stacy actually is living in Paris, and we got together. Now I'm drawing a blank, but that is how I met Sara and Stacy. And so I'm really excited to chat with you today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's so fun.
Okay, so I kind of just want to start from the beginning, and I want to know how both of you, twins, ended up becoming nurses, and where did you work? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah. Do you want to start or should I start?
Sure.
Should
we?
we?
Okay.
Yeah. I'll go first. Yeah.
Okay, Sara first, and then Stacy.
Yes, allow me to set the scene.
Yeah. Okay.
So we started in the medical field actually as surgical technologists in the operating room. And it was one of those moments where our dad was paying for 4 years of school and we were 2 years in and we're like, we need to pick something now that we can finish in 2 years, have a job. And we're like, well, the medical profession, that's great. So we started with surgical technology, and that's kind of introduced us to the operating room. And then I feel like once we got behind those closed doors and we saw that, then we realized oh, nursing isn't just at the bedside. Nurses can also work in the operating room. So then that kind of led us to go back to school for nursing. And yeah, so that's kind of our journey into becoming that's in the nutshell. Yeah. That's we got the exposure, and then we're like, oh, okay, we nurses can do this too, and then we went down that route.
But do you feel like growing up, as twins, you always felt connected in that way? Did you always feel oh, we'll end up doing the same thing? You obviously have similar interests if you both ended up in nursing. I don't know.
It was actually a complete shock to both of us, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
I actually, this is like probably controversial, but like I never wanted to be a nurse. That is
Same.
how we ended up. It's not like what I wanted to be an artist, like a
Okay.
fashion designer, graphic designer, like all of that. And
Okay.
Stacy, we thought Stacy would be like a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and so at the time, it was just, we both got quickly talked out of each of those professions
Okay.
because it was like, not practical or whatever. And and like Sarah said, we had been in college for 2 years, and we're like, what are we doing? I don't really know, but we better like make a smart decision. And so that was what we did. And Sarah always liked surgery. I never liked surgery. I didn't even like watching shows, the TV shows. But rare, and this rare moment of like, I'm just I just like I followed Sarah.
Yeah.
And I lied in my interview. I was like, oh yeah, I love watching, Dr. 90210. Like, I mean, I the funny thing is I like the show, but not the surgery part.
Yeah.
And so
And I remember sitting there like, what? Okay.
Sorry. Wow.
And like, if you notice, typically, like, I mean, with our dynamic, we have this sort of like, I'm not the older one, but I like, act like the older one. I always helped Sarah with like stuff in school. So this was a turn of events where like I followed her because I was like, this is a good plan, and I was very practical about it. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do this because I think it's a good idea. Little did I know how I was going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because plot twist.
It too, though.
Yeah.
Plot twist. Yeah. And the other thing about it too is like when we actually like the way we chose surgical technology, it's not even like, oh, that's what I want to do. Like we went to a local community college that's like known for it's got really good medical programs, right?
Okay.
And we're like, great, they're all 2 years. We went. We applied to every single one. We got in to every single one, but the only one that didn't have a wait list to start was surgical technology. So we're like, great, that's what we're gonna do. We just need something.
Yeah. And like,
I love it.
So not us. Like, I was the high achiever in school, like really high grade point average. I thought I was going to do all kinds of other things, but like, this is just, and not that there's anything wrong with what we did, but this path surprised both of us equally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're like, okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, plot twist, everybody sitting here right now is now retired from bedside nursing. So tell me, did you guys retire at the same time, or like did one of you do it and then the other one was like, I want to too? How did that work?
Yeah.
So it was always the plan. Like always specifically, like,
you're like the first day of nursing school. You're like, the plan is to leave. Yes. Okay.
Honestly, I hated nursing school so much. Yeah, that was the plan.
Yes. Okay, I understand.
But no, Stacy ended up leaving first. Yeah. Stacy left first. Yeah.
I left first, but like this is probably like 4 years ago now when we had discovered that there was this specialty called nurse coaching. And it was around the same time that we were beginning to we had been looking for non-bedside jobs, had a lot of interviews. Like mine didn't really go anywhere. Sarah was progressing in one area, but then we were just feeling lost. So we had discovered this, specialty called nurse coaching. And we're like, okay, well, let's just see what this is. Maybe this would help us get a non-bedside job, and it wasn't even until after we started that then we're like, oh, okay, there's this whole world of entrepreneurship that we had zero clue about. And so we sort of eased our way in, since we were in the OR, the last, while we were in that program and while we were starting our business and everything, we were working part-time. So I guess easing our way in was a good way to describe
4
it.
days a week. Yeah. We went down to 3 days a week.
Okay.
Because we're 8-hour shifts also.
Yeah.
And then so that was kind of the beginning of our exit, but it was not really impulsive or, that part wasn't crazy. That part we were trying to.
Actually, your part a little bit was.
My part became crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so basically what I'm hearing is you go to nursing school, maybe a little bit out of obligation. You decide, you both realize maybe that's not the correct path for you. And you decide that you want to do something to get out of being a nurse. So you had learned about nurse coaching and nurse coaching, like, did you take a class for that? How did you become
Yes.
coaches?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is so the American Holistic Nurses Association, which I feel like a lot of nurses don't know about, but there is an association.
Yeah, I've never heard.
They have
Okay.
Yeah. So they have
Yeah.
two specialties, the holistic nursing and the nurse coaching. So for each one, it's not an additional degree, it's a certification. So it's about 67 or no, 120 CEUs, half of which in this case were a supervised practicum, but we did a formal program. So the program itself was like 7 months. You have a practicum that's basically like clinicals, and then you do a board certification exam. So like it's very legit. It's just a lot of nurses don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
I also feel like coaching was like almost the gateway drug of entrepreneurship and this whole beyond the bedside type of life, because a lot of people know about, oh, I could do something remote, or I could work in, quality, or I don't know, like people have a vague idea of other types of roles, but it wasn't until we even like entered this world of people like building their own businesses that we heard about other things like, oh, you can do like healthcare content writing, like you can do like people want nurses to create content. Like there's all these other things that we end up getting into, but really only because we went down that path.
Right.
That's how we discovered that. But then it was nice because it felt very like, oh, we're, like we're in school, we're getting a certification, we're like doing the things that nurses do, which is like they keep learning. And so I think that was how we entered. That was how really our entry point.
But I think so Stacy, you said you had originally want to be a teacher. So to me, moving into coaching makes sense. But Sarah, if you wanted to go into like fashion and like art, how did you get pulled into the coaching thing?
Yeah. Oh, well, so the thing is, like when we discovered like the nurse coaching certification, like this was during COVID times. So this is like, we both had gone through burnout probably like multiple times, but just didn't like really realize
know what to call it.
Was.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And then like once COVID hit, we're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like we got to get out of here. And so finding the coaching, like we found, again, it's like classic, like we found it together, we did it together. And for me, it was one of those where it was like, well, I don't know if this is necessarily still even my passion, but like I can see that this is a smart route to go in. And then once we started doing it and like doing the practicum, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I like coaching people. I like this better than the traditional nursing. And then also like Stacy said, like it opened up because like with coaching and you enter that personal development space and then like you do the mindset work and then you see like, oh my gosh, there's actually like all these possibilities out here for like what you can do. And then ultimately, like for me, getting back into my creativity is what healed my burnout. And also just, I feel like at the point in my life where I am now, like Stacey and I were talking about this the other day, like I don't think if I would have started out in a creative career, I don't know if I would be where I'm at like now versus like actually like nursing was a good segue into it, even though it was kind of like not the creative job, but like now like going down this path. And like also like back when makes me sound like so old, like back when we were like choosing our degrees, like the world of the internet and like freelancing and like content creation, like none of that was a thing.
No.
So I feel like now too, like growing up in this space and like being exposed to it, and I can see like actually there is the potential to support yourself and make money as an artist, whereas like probably wouldn't have realized that before.
I agree.
A really weird roundabout way to answer that question, but
no, but I pick up what you're putting down. So you go into coaching, and now you have your own company called Well and Whole. So so when you went into coaching,
okay, in my opinion, but I don't know much about coaching. Like, you don't have to start a full business, do you? Like, because you have the certification and the credentials, could you work for somebody else? Like, what made you create Well and Whole?
Yeah. So really what in our program, it was mainly about, like mindset work, mix of psychology, well-being, all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of people that went into this program had the goal of starting a business, but more and more now in hospitals are taking nurse coaches for like having positions to do their own staff well-being. And that was actually the first thing that we tried to do. So we, in our hospital, like we had reached out to our CNO. We had been working with him a lot because we were the goody two shoes nurses on all the committees, and we were like, but we had our voice heard, so that was good. And then we were like, we discovered this thing. We're like, oh my gosh, this is what we need to like solve this retention problem. Blah blah blah. We sold it to him. He's like, yes, let's do it. So it was all happy and exciting. We got paid to like create a program, put this together, but things really fizzled out within about probably 6 to 8 months when I think that, they had budget cuts. We started with like, here's what it's going to be. And then we saw everything that we wanted taken away. And then it was going to be like, oh, you can have 8 hours, but you still have to work in your own job. And we were like, this is not
like, that's not the point.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
So at that point was when we were like, okay, this is not going to be like, this is not going to be what we want. Like, I'm sure other people might have a different story now, especially now that the specialty is becoming more well known, and people like I know some other nurse coaches that do work in hospitals, and it's kind of it's like a regular job, so you don't have to start it. Also, side note, like even just going through the program and so you get coached in the program as well. Like I felt so good knowing that there's these things about our minds that are flexible. So I had a whole different mindset even before we left, thinking about like how to communicate with people and teaching people and like what did precepting look like. So there's a ton of benefits even if you don't go into entrepreneurship. But after we had that experience where we just felt like, oh, we kind of put all our eggs in one basket, and then later found out that there were also some active people trying to sabotage the program. Then we were like, okay, well, let's, we're just going to have to, we're not going to like
take this into our own hands.
Take this into our own hands. We're not going to work with organizations. We're going to, work one-on-one with
from the
people.
inside. Yeah.
Not from the inside. Because also like we are very green about that.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing too, just to like pivot back, like not every nurse necessarily goes into nurse coaching because they want to like open their own business and go into entrepreneurship and start their own private practice. Like there are still nurses who love nursing, which is great for them, and they just want to have this like good
certification.
People like that. And they incorporate that just into their own daily bedside practice.
I feel like leadership should have to do it, honestly. Education and leadership, like I think it should be required.
So it's not like everyone just goes into nurse coaching because they're going to open their own business, but there is a big majority who do, but there are also people who just do it because they want that experience. They want that certification to bring back to their nursing practice.
So what does being well and whole mean to you guys?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this definition has evolved a lot over the course of our time in business, because when we began, we were really focused on like, okay, we went through burnout. We want to help other nurses, who are burned out. But what we realized was a lot of the people that we were attracting were not bedside nurses. They were nurses who had left the bedside, and then they were in either, some post-bedside role, I would say. So whether that's like remote leadership, entrepreneurship. And then we realized like, all of the stuff beneath the burnout, there's a lot around like self-image, your mindset, the way you think about yourself, expressing your creativity. And so I think as we've kind of gone through these different phases and evolutions of our business, the wellness, like what started out as very literal stress management, like let's, have practical tools so that we, our bucket isn't overflowing all the time, like really got so much deeper to this idea of the wholeness is like there are all these pieces and parts of us that sometimes we say like, I either have to be this or I have to be this, but no, you put them together and that's you being like a whole person, like not letting one part of your identity, like nursing, dominate, having it be like, this is one piece. And then I'm an artist over here. I'm a writer over here. It's
like multifaceted. Multifaceted and letting yourself be every part of you.
It's really a lot of acceptance.
I think that a lot of nurses, from my own experience, and this is how I felt, like nursing was such a defining factor of me, and it didn't encapsulate all of my interests. But for some reason, being a nurse is like your identity more so than my brother works, at Amazon. Like, it's not like he's like, I'm an Amazon employee. Like nurses say, I'm a nurse. Yeah, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it is interesting that nursing, like it really takes on your personality in a way. And I think if you're burned out or trying to get away from that, that can feel a little bit suffocating. And so, I agree with what you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that like this is also like in our journeys of leaving the bedside because, well, I don't think that we mentioned this, but like, okay, so I left over 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago in March. And then when I got married, I moved to France, and Sarah left officially before she took this sabbatical to New Zealand. And so there was this part of me where it's like, after I left at first, I'm like, okay, I don't feel like a nurse at all. And so then I like wanted to push it all away. And then I feel like now it's sort of come back into this harmonious whole where I'm like realizing the power of our like shared collective experience, the trust, the stories that we tell each other that just resonate so deeply. And so I'm in a place now where I feel like I know which part and how much of myself I want that to be. But I think because we saw so many people that this completely took over their identity. At first, the inclination is once you sort of get out of that immediate bedside role is to just like, okay, that's it. That's not me anymore. Like push it all away. And so I think for me, like really the healing, I guess, was like integrating and figuring out like who I was outside of it. And then also which parts still feel like me and what feels important.
Yeah. And now if somebody were to hire you two, like, do you come as a package deal? Like, do you do the same things? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Do you get 2 coaches for the price of one?
I know. Okay. So we should also clarify this. Things have shifted a lot. So for the most part in our business, we worked separately with our own clients. We were just sort of under the same umbrella.
Like the umbrella.
We had started, there was a piece of our business we had started before, and now we have come back to because we realized that it's what we really enjoy the most. And so this is the creative piece. So we have, and this is where we do work together because we run groups teaching nurse coaches and entrepreneurs about how to create on social media. There's so many nurses that it's just very, there's nobody that caters to them or to someone who's new at this. Like most of the stuff out there is really advanced and we kind of take that for granted. So what we do is kind of distill the information for like nurses and coaches and entrepreneurs to say like, hey, you do need this or you don't need this, or we're going to take you by the hand and walk you through how to do this. Like we have a group program where we do various stages of Instagram, social media, that kind of thing, but also really like helping them find value in their story in order to connect with people. So I think that's what we realized is like, I always considered Sarah as like the creative one, but I took for granted that like I love writing and how much that makes me just as creative, even if I'm not really like considering myself an artist. And what we realized too is like all this work that we had to do for our business in terms of like writing and creating content. This is the questions that people would come to us for help the most often. And so we were trying to do that at the same time. as, coaching around a lot of these deeper topics, which still matter. But we were like, well, I think the thing is that we're both really happy when we're creating and when we're helping other people create. So it's kind of this fusion now where that's the main thing of what we do. But then we've also run creative workshops. So like I run journaling workshops here in Paris. We started running them in Cleveland. We did like a word of the year friendship bracelet. So like what we really like want to do is help people tell their story, help them get in touch with their creativity, and like help other nurses who need this help for, especially like whether it's, the purposes of building a brand for a business that they're also leaving the bedside, or, they find some sort of healing in that kind of sharing.
Mm-hmm. And I guess one thing I'm curious about, I know you work with people that are not nurses as well, but it sounds like you have worked with a lot of nurses. What's like a common theme that you hear nurses really struggling with?
Oh my gosh. I feel like there's like, how long do we have? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. I think like something that it's interesting has come up with two of my clients, and one's a nurse, one's not a nurse, but they're both like medical professionals. Mm-hmm. And actually both of them do want to leave the bedside. But it's this fear that like once I leave nursing, or once I leave the bedside, I'm going to lose all of my skills. All of that's going to be for nothing. And so like,
and starting over.
Like, oh, I'm starting from zero. And it's like, well, you're never really starting from zero. You're never going to actually lose those skills. Like, no, maybe you're not going to like use them all the time, but like you still built those skills, like you still have them. And like, you're not going to go from being a nurse to just like being a janitor because you like decide to leave. Like, you're not that there's anything wrong with being a janitor, but like you're not gonna go from like being a nurse to like being whatever.
No, like homeless on the street.
Just because you need nursing. Like there's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not gonna be homeless on the street. You're not gonna lose your house or your apartment or like all of your belongings, like just because you leave the bedside.
Right.
But people really have that fear. We're like, I'm not gonna be a nurse anymore. And yeah.
I think that's interesting because that's exactly how I felt. Like I was ready to leave way before I did. But when I actually left, I didn't plan to. I just like my passports and premies just picked up and I was making enough money. I didn't have to go back. But I don't know if I could have officially like let go because it's so scary to just like take that leap. So what do you tell them that like how do you get somebody out of that mindset? It's almost like what's the word? It's gonna bother me. It's that mindset of like not having enough.
Yes,
like a
scarcity
mindset. Yeah, it's almost like a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
So how do you get somebody out of that mindset?
Yeah.
Tell me the tricks.
It's honestly, it's a things. Yeah. It is a hard mindset because it's so ingrained in you too, as like you're a nurse, this is your identity, and how you're ever gonna make, like you're never gonna make what you make at the bedside if you blah 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 blah. People just put that mindset in you. So like it's okay. It's gonna take some work to get over that mindset. But yeah, go ahead, Stacy.
What I was gonna say too, I think like this idea about like whether or not you're prepared for this sort of transition, because we were talking about this yesterday, like what really needs to change inside is knowing like when people leave the bedside, a lot of times it's not that they miss the bedside, or maybe they think they do, but what they really miss is the version of themselves that felt really confident and was always getting recognized for like the job well done, and they felt like they just knew everything that they needed to do. So and I get that too.
I'm like have goosebumps right now listening to this. Yeah.
But like if we haven't really picked this apart, you think that that's what you miss, but it's like you miss that version of yourself Because that's what I said to my husband. He was like, do you ever miss it? And I was like, I miss being confident and feeling like I was without a doubt really good at something. Because when we leave, a lot of times we're going into something like, okay, you are in entrepreneurship too. Like, you have to pat yourself on the back, you have to, you have to like cultivate that knowing and that ability to validate yourself. And that is not easy. I mean, like, even like, this is something we've talked about regularly, like with our journey too. It's like we could go from like the very traditional explanation of, our brains are wired to keep us safe. Yes, that's true. The things that are familiar are.
Okay.
So my husband
Wait,
asked me, this was very recently. We're here.
Okay.
Yeah. So my husband had asked me if I missed working in the hospital. And that was my answer to him, because I was like, it's taken years of, inner work for me to understand this. But I was like, no, but I just really like, obviously there's people that I miss and like, I had some nice relationships there. But no, what I really missed was like being that person who everybody knew, like I was so good. And, like like that's what I miss, is like the recognition and feeling really confident and, like, for lack of a better word, like throwing my weight around. Like I just wrote this post on LinkedIn about how I used to be like the go-to person for like polishing everybody's emails and incident reports, and how I was just never afraid. Like there were all these people who were afraid to speak up about stuff, and I never was. And like, so I missed that version of myself, because coming to France is one thing. In addition to like leaving the bedside, like being in a new country where like you don't feel like you're speaking up at all. And yeah, like that's a big contrast. But I can take the pieces and know, okay, which part was what I actually missed, which part was this version of myself.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because my dad was a doctor and he just retired, and he told me that like one thing, like he doesn't miss work, but in a way he misses like people respecting him and having a say and like being an authority on a topic.
Yeah.
And he said like he didn't realize that would be so challenging when he left. And I guess like I kind of felt like that too. It's like I was a good nurse. I was good at being a NICU nurse. And then I'm like still like figuring out entrepreneurship, and I'm not as good. It's not as natural. I'm not as good. It's not as easy. And like sometimes that can like really weigh on my psyche. Like it's really scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people don't, something else that people don't really talk about is you can burn yourself out just as bad or worse once you're away, if you are carrying the habits and patterns and things. Like we take so much of what we think burnout is and assign it to like our work environment. And although that is important, and yes, like there's a lot of toxic stuff in healthcare and a lot of people work in a toxic environment, but you realize once you leave, you can burn yourself out again. And you're like, wait, there's a common denominator in here. And it's me. Like, ouch.
I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something like, people.
I caught that, Taylor.
Points for people preparing to leave. Yeah.
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 But and that's like Stacy has, well, I mean, you can tell us or I can tell, but Stacy was telling me, it's like the urgency where she was telling me this story, how she's like, oh, I kept on telling Steven, like, well, I'm just going to run to the bathroom real quick. And he's like, you don't need to be quick. And I was like,
and he's like, and you don't need to run. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why am I running to the bathroom?
In my own house, on my own time. I can take as long as I want. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
It's so true. Like being a nurse, like it does like teach you this, like, and it has to, but like this weird urgency around life. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I was going to say. So like for people that are, whether or not you're leaving, this is important. Like So nobody tells us this because it's really to their advantage for us to just like build our own cage of disempowerment. But the thing is that there are all of these habits and patterns and mindsets that we use at work, and we kind of need to use them there to like be successful, take care of our patients, whatever. But they spill over into like our home life while we're working, or even once we leave, we are repeating the same thing. So like, being hyper vigilant and constantly like scanning for threats. And like, that's exhausting. That's why when you leave, you're still exhausted if you don't realize you're doing this. Like, yeah, running to the bathroom, taking care of everybody else instead of yourself, still thinking you have to be perfect at everything. Cause like in entrepreneurship, nobody's going to die, but we still act like they are if we're not like, getting a gold star. So it's like all of these things that are so ingrained in us, we don't realize that we're continuing to live out in these other ways in our personal lives. And so like, whether you're still at the bedside or not, like this is happening if you haven't really addressed it. And then it's taken 2 years of being gone for me to realize, oh yeah, that's why I do that. Oh, it's not normal to like have 5 different flight itineraries planned because, like I mean,
Yes.
like there's a lot of things that we just thought were normal because we were also around
stuff like, not normal.
Backup plan. And yeah, you don't need like 25 backup plans in your personal life for stuff, And so I think that's a big mindset piece as well. But like when you were starting to talk about the scarcity, and I think this seems, I'm sure that we have a lot of exposure to this just because of like our work and our Instagram algorithms. And probably I feel like everybody's heard this by now, but maybe they haven't, our brains really are wired for survival. So they want what's comfortable. They want what is familiar. That may not be the best thing for you. So when we are thinking about making a big change in our lives, there is going to be this strong pull back to say, oh, we don't know about that. We're going to stay here. And like people think that like their brains are trying to keep them happy, and like, no, that's not it at all. That's why we have all these patterns and things that we go to. And that's, especially as nurses, we have even more of that than the average person because it helps us to be successful in our job. But then we think, why do we feel so stuck? Well, like that is why we feel so stuck.
You're making yourself stuck because again, it's that comfort piece where it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's like literally the worst. And this job is actually causing me physical like symptoms. But then you might get an opportunity and you're like, well, but I don't know, it might be worse. So I might as well just stay here, even though like it's probably better. And that's the thing. There's a cost to everything. And this is like one of the mindset pieces I feel like it's important for people to work on, but it's like hard. And it's like, okay, but like, what is it costing you to stay here? Like my one client, I won't go into like too many details because I don't want to like give her personal stuff away, but like she really had like real physical symptoms of like the stress that she's under. And it's like, that's a big cost of staying where you're at versus like, okay, yeah, it's probably going to be kind of uncomfortable to leave and try something new, or maybe try, even if it's the same job, maybe if it's a less stressful version of it at like a different hospital. But it's like, there's such a cost to staying stuck with where you're at, but people really don't think of it that way. They think of it from like the comfort piece, like, well, yeah, it's stressful, but like I know the stress that's here.
Yeah.
So
don't even get us started on the I'll be bored if I do something that's like,
I'm like, oh, boo hoo.
Wait a minute. I'm also like, what's the problem? Like, oh no.
I would love to be bored, okay? I know, like exactly. Like, since when is being bored a bad thing? Like, whoever said that obviously doesn't have Netflix.
Right. But like, did you hear that all the time too? Like, we heard this from people all the time. And I'm like, this is propaganda.
I could never do that because I'd be so bored. I'm like, well, I love being bored. So you can keep all this stress. Go ahead, stay here, stay in this terrible job. I would pay money to be bored right now. Okay.
The other thing is, if you're going to be bored. Okay. What does that actually mean? Because first of all, yes. Yes.
I feel like this is like a real life coaching session. Like, okay, yeah, what does that mean? Tell me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, what does it mean? Like, okay, people say this and they perpetuate it. So, like, number one, I'm just going to use the term propaganda because who does it benefit? Not us, right? Like, it's the whole system. But we just keep perpetuating it. So, like, nobody else has to get their hands dirty. But second of all, like, okay, number one, I don't know where I am. Okay, you don't have any hobbies. That's for sure. If you're worried about getting bored, you don't have any hobbies. And the other thing that's for sure is also what we've been talking about is people, they just don't realize like how much of their self-image and confidence and pride comes from their job. So they're not really afraid of being bored. They're afraid of losing that, but they don't have the words for that yet. You know, and the other thing is our culture has this thing about being busy all the time. And like you and me, Kylee, now that we're in France, we see the other side of things. Like all of us have traveled. So we've had like all of us have had like good fortune, like seeing a different way. But like the whole like American culture is so brainwashed that if you're not busy, then you're worthless. So like that's the other thing, you know. And people just they might not. They say this with very good intentions, but it's like they're not really afraid of being bored when they say that you're going to be bored.
I actually, so in 2018, I was working as a travel nurse and I was leaving for a solo trip. At the time, I booked like a one-way ticket, so I didn't even know how long I was going to be gone. And I remember telling somebody at work about my trip, and she said, "That sounds so boring. What are you going to do?" And it really hurt my feelings. Like, I don't know why, but like I felt like I wanted to cry because it was like, this was something I had dreamed, I had saved forever to do this. And like, I reflected on that moment so much. And then I kind of started to take it as more like, I wonder if that's coming from a place of jealousy. Like, maybe she also wishes. So I think, it's like the hustle culture. I think some people want to do something and then they're too scared to actually do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's interesting to think of.
People just want to like keep you like, because people are I think that jealousy piece is like totally it. And like, you never want to be like, oh, it's just because they're jealous. Honestly, a lot of the time, like that's actually what it is. And then it's like that, like people, I don't know if this is like the right term for it, like that herd mentality or whatever. Where it's like,
it's crabs in a bucket syndrome.
Crabs in a bucket where it's like,
what's crabs in a bucket?
No, stay here, like.
Okay. I've never heard of this. Crabs in a bucket.
So I heard about this. Okay. It's
crabs in a bucket.
I heard about this in a book I was listening to, an audiobook. It's called Women Living Deliciously. But I feel like we could interpret this all for like, it's so relevant for nursing. But okay, so the natural state of crabs is to be like friends and help each other and whatever. But if you put them into a bucket, if they worked together, they could get out. But if one is starting to get out, all the crabs pull the crab down that's starting to get out. So when they're in this bucket, they go against their natural tendencies. So I feel like that's the same. Like nurses in the hospital are crabs in a bucket. Like,
wow.
They're not rooting for you to leave, you know, they're like, no, you're going to be miserable. You should just stay here. And
you should pick up another shift. Yeah. Wait, I love.
It's that.
I love that. I'm going to start saying that. Crabs in a bucket. Okay, I'm here for that.
Yeah. And I think too, Kylee, like Sarah and I've had similar experiences. Oh, wait, can I say this? Or do we have that people weren't always kind to us. Like we were traveling for fun. Yeah. And some people were like, oh, I'm going to live vicariously through you. And like, we took that as a compliment, but it was also really sad. But then there were other people, like somebody said this one time, we were going to Bali and we were all excited to like see elephants and at this park. I guess it's questionable now if we should have done that, but that's not details. Somebody told one of our friends, like, why would you want to go do that? You could just like see one at the zoo. And I was like, well, we do not live on the same planet.
Not like, that is not the same. Okay, Karen.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot of that. I've had a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just actually it's shameful, I think. But
Yeah.
people just feel so stuck that then this ugly stuff comes out of them.
Yeah. Or like when people are leaving, they're like, oh, you're really gonna miss it. Like and it's like, I'm not at all.
That's why if you miss it, you can go back. Like it's not like they're not gonna hire you back if you miss it. Yeah. That's what I tell people all the time. Like you can always go back to your old life. Like it's But I'm curious if there is a nurse listening who feels really overwhelmed, but maybe they don't know if they want to leave the bedside. Like what are some tools? What do you tell them? Like how do you get them on a path to figure out like, okay, it's time to move on from bedside nursing versus like maybe there's something else going on and you should stay. Like walk me through what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think there's a couple different ways that I would approach this. And the common denominator of all of them is taking some time to actually be by yourself and think about what you want. So for people like us, that might look like, going on a trip where you can physically be away from your home, from your life, from the hospital. But if you can't do that, you could start with something as simple as like taking an hour to yourself with nobody else, like not doing stuff for anybody else, and like get out a journal and just dump all these thoughts out of your head, like write them down and see what comes out, because you will be shocked when you start putting a pen to paper. Or if you could talk to somebody that you trust, which a lot of people like don't always have somebody that they would go to with this for an honest answer, because like sometimes, our friends just tell us what we want to hear. So taking time for self-reflection and actually the time to like slow down, get quiet, realize that some uncomfortable things are going to come up and be okay with that, whether it's at home or somewhere else. But it's like most of us, like you had a question about, what did your life look like? Like until we got into the whole world of personal development, it was not a regular thing where we took time to stop and pause and reconsider. So I think that that's the first place where we really go wrong, is like, even just for most people, just taking a little bit of time for themselves is a huge challenge. But it's like, that's where you need to start so that you can actually hear your own thoughts and like let them out.
Yeah. And like writing down, and it is hard because like your first inclination when you think like, what do you want? You're probably still going to be thinking like, well, what is the right thing to do? Or what is it that other people think I should do? But it's like, no, like everybody in your life aside, what is it that you actually want going forward?
So I like to ask at the end of the podcast, but we're not there yet, but I am going to ask it now.
Yes.
I like to tell people listening, like, now's a really good time to pause. And I want you to take a minute and I want you to think really hard about what you want your life to look like in 5 years. And the reason I ask this question to my guests, and I invite the audience to also pause and think about it, is because I've heard so many nurses say, like they dream of a different kind of life, but they just don't know how to get there. So I would like both of you maybe to tell me, like, what do you hope your life looks like in 5 years? And do you feel like you are taking the steps right now to get there?
Yeah.
Sarah, do you want to go first?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know exactly what I want it to look like in 5 years, but I think I want, at this stage in my life, I want it to look pretty similar actually to how my life already looks, but just like a little bit extra. So like I've left the bedside. That's great. Like I wanted to do that for a while. I'm like in my creativity. So like, I guess what I want is just like more of the abundance of things in the next 5 years. Like I want to still be like working with Stacy, helping like nurse entrepreneurs. I want to have the time to do my creativity, make my books, read my books. I want to have time to travel, but like more time. So like instead of just going somewhere for like 2 weeks, like go somewhere for a month, like go back to New Zealand for a month, go to Hawaii for a month. So like my life right now, like, and I just want to be happy with whatever it is that I'm doing. And I think that I'm definitely like taking those steps now. And like that all started September 26th, my last day of work. That was like the stepping stone to this. So like I'm definitely like on that path and taking the steps. But it's a good feeling to be like, I actually want it to be pretty similar to what it is now.
Well, I was going to say, I like that you said the abundance thing, because I think people are scared to use that word because it, like, maybe it sounds a little selfish or like, but I think that's like a really good, like, truthful and like positive way to think. Like, instead of having a scarcity mindset, like I feel like having an abundance mindset is it's something I'm working on. And so I appreciate that you said that answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's actually my word of the year. And that's what I made like my friendship bracelet out of. But
I
like,
love
because
that.
I don't like, yes, we all want an abundance of money. Yeah, thank you. And like, so like we all like a lot of people too, like, when you think of that word abundance, I feel like so many people just associate it with like a monetary thing, which like, that's great too. But it's like, I want every area of my life to feel abundant. I want my time to feel abundant. I want like my friendships and my relationships to feel abundant. I want my creativity. Like I want every aspect to feel abundant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think like this would be a tangent that we don't necessarily have to go down, but when you talk about your creativity, like people might not know that you have another business where you do custom book binding.
Yeah, I make custom
paper marbling.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like kind of a little bit of cosplay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we had to throw that in there because that was,
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
A little plug. We'll have to do another podcast on that side of the business.
Yeah.
Okay, Stacy, what does your life look like in 5 years? Yeah.
Yeah, like what Sarah was saying, like that hits for me as well, like, so something that we like to do with, like with clients and we do ourselves is like making vision boards. And I think that really helps you get in touch with like more general feelings. Like you can have very specific goals, but like Sarah mentioned, we both achieved a lot of the things that we wanted to, like leaving the bedside and like starting a business. But for me, I think we've had a lot of twists and turns. So what I really want as well is that like stability piece. I think like, you go into entrepreneurship thinking it's going to be one thing. And then as anybody would tell you, you take a few twists and turns before you really, really figure it out. And I feel like we're kind of starting to hit our stride with that. We've had a lot of really meaningful work already, but I think we're further honing in on what we're doing, and that feels really good. So I'm very excited to like see where that goes and like how we're going to be able to like amplify and like help other nurses in that area. But I think like from a personal standpoint, my word of the year is peace. And so like being at peace with myself and like actively trying not to put so much pressure on myself, like I actually have done my entire life. It's taken like years of work to sort of sort that mentality out as well. And like really truly like stopping to smell the roses, noticing all the really good things that I have in my life right now, because I do. It's almost hard to think about like, oh my goodness, what else? But yeah, I think I definitely want to be fluent in French as well. Like just, a non-business goal.
Yes.
I am working on that. So I feel like,
taking the steps.
Definitely taking steps. Yeah.
What would you guys like to see shift in the nursing profession?
I think that like, and this was interesting because I was reflecting on this and I did some writing about this and I spoke about this as well, but disassembling the good nurse, deconstructing the good nurse mentality. And because we get ourselves into trouble as nurses, and then we also put this on other people because we've adopted these vague but very loaded definitions of what this means. And then we do things like completely abandon our own needs, our self-care, pick up all the overtime, put ourselves on the back burner. Like, I would love to see that toxic cycle be like broken, because really it's like when like nurses are naturally advocates, and the natural state, I feel like, should be one of us being empowered. And that would make all the difference in the world. Like, we don't need to be in this sort of like state of submission in the healthcare system in order to stay. Actually, that's what makes people leave. But I think that people might be afraid of nurses realizing their true power and their true voice, when actually, if we were empowered to do that, and we started from the time we were in school, and this was encouraged all throughout like our professional development, if we were also encouraged to be personally developing ourselves, not only would we be like more powerful and fulfilled as people, but we would be able to stay in the profession longer if we chose to, and people wouldn't be leaving just to escape something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that answer.
Yeah. I feel like most of that echoes my my
Yeah.
thoughts. And also just like nurses taking time for themselves. And like this is something that me and Stacy were talking about. Like, it's not that you can't have a calling, but like many people like are like, oh, nursing is my calling and whatever. But I feel like that's just such a trap to like get nurses to work overtime and do all the terrible things that like burn you out in the first place. And I think it's just like first, and oh gosh, there's like so many things like nurses supporting each other, like no more crabs in a bucket. Like, if someone wants to get out, like help that person get out, and like cheering for one another instead of like that toxic. Like there's just, healthcare in general is just toxic, and it's like, how do you make that untoxic? But so it's like everything that Stacy said, plus I think like really nurses actually supporting one another, but then also like supporting yourself and really like doing the things to take care of yourself. I'm like huge on having hobbies and creativity. So like making sure like when you're clocked out, like you are clocked out and you are having your own life and identity that is totally separate from nursing.
Yeah.
Is there any books or mantras that you can share with us listening, with me talking to you, that you kind of feel like helps your mindset shift or helps you move forward in next steps for people that feel stuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
honestly,
we have two takes on this.
I know.
Okay, tell me.
Totally different takes.
Okay, I'm excited
because I know, because I love reading. Right, pick up a fantasy book, romantasy, whatever it is. Pick up a fantasy book. Read about a world that has nothing to do with this world, that sparks your imagination, that takes you on a journey, that's like a movie in your mind. Do an audiobook, whatever you want. Read something just for fun to get yourself out of reality.
I love that.
And
I love that.
Yeah. But okay, for me, I think the more like literal answer to this question, I've read this book like 4 times. I just love it. It's called The Source by Dr. Tara Swart. And it's a whole of like neuroscience. Yeah. So the source is your brain. Like, just spoiler alert. It's not really spoiler because she tells you on the first page. It's basically how to understand all of the things that are happening in your brain and body from like a neuroscience perspective about why we feel stuck in the first place, to how we can start to take steps to create like real change. And I think when you learn the science behind it, like we hear a lot about, manifestation or things that might sound woo, or people have varying opinions on that. But when you realize that there is real science behind a lot of these things that you see online, like they actually are true, and she talks a lot about mindset and abundance mindset and scarcity mindset and where do they come from and how do you shift? and understanding like physiologically, like what's going on when you're in a state of stress or versus in trying novel things, doing new things. Like how do we actually rewire our brains for the change that we want? Like this book is fantastic.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's my favorite for sure. I'm reading a book right now that I like. I'm only halfway through, but I can still recommend it. It's called Activate Your Future Self by Mimi Bouchard. And she talks about very similar things, but she uses like visualization and like audio. Her app is called Activations. So it's very much like kind of like she calls it an eyes open meditation where you are like envisioning yourself as this future person. But I think both of these things really help you to think past and think deeper, like the what do I actually want question, and give you a lot of practical tools in order to start changing your thinking to become that. And so I think,
I think I
Totally different ends of the spectrum.
no, I relate to both of you because my goal is always to read 2 books a month. And the first book of the month is fantasy or like a nonfiction. I like crime, like not true crime, like fake crime.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the second book I read is always like a self-help book. So like I see both sides of
there
this.
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you had asked about mantras too. Can
Yes.
we share a few?
Yeah. I want to hear your mantra.
I think something that we've reflected on a lot lately and even done in our own like group coaching space, is nothing is wasted and everything in perfect timing. So the nothing is wasted because a lot of us grew up like you don't waste a thing, so every decision that we make, we're afraid of wasting time. We're afraid of wasting money. We're afraid of trying stuff. Like being afraid of trying something new is actually just like being afraid of wasting. So if you can remind yourself that like nothing is wasted, everything is for you and it is bringing you to where you need to go. You're going to learn something that's going to help you. This next step might not be the step, but it might be the step that gets you to the next step. So like nothing is wasted.
That though, when you talk about the abundance mindset and nothing is wasted, so something I have trouble with that is okay. So specifically, like spending money to get to the next step, even though I feel like right now it feels like a waste of money because I don't see that next step. For instance, I hired a podcast manager. And I love to talk to people, but I hate doing everything else. And I'm paying her, obviously. And I was telling her, like, okay, it's scary because right now I'm not making money on the podcast. So it's like, I'm paying you, but I'm not making money. But that is like, I'm choosing to have an abundance mindset, like that this will come back to me and that this will end up making me money because I hired her, And I think it's a really scary. It's really scary, but I feel like I'm having a personal coaching session right now.
And you know what, Kylie? It's not fun. Like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay, like, to feel that and acknowledge that. And also, it's like you taking that step and that action, you're just like reaffirming to yourself or to your subconscious, like at a subconscious level, you taking the action anyways. There is a huge benefit to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope somebody listening feels the same.
We've had, Yeah. And, we've worked with a couple of different coaches throughout like these past few years. And that's the thing is, even though, I can't say like one specific coach got us to where we are, but like it's all, there's been benefit from all of it.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned something from each coach, each mentor, each person that we've worked with, and none of that is wasted. And if we wouldn't have invested that money, we wouldn't have gotten that knowledge or that skill or mindset shift or whatever. So like none of it is wasted. And then kind of on top of those two, like progress isn't lost. And I don't know exactly how to word it, but when I went to New Zealand, I one of the big things I did there was I ran a half marathon, and I only like started running last year in August.
Mm-hmm.
And I trained all that time. And I actually don't really love running, but I did it. I was like, I just need to say that I could do this because it like this marathon, like literally like you run through the Shire, like it's amazing, right? So it's like I just need to say that I did this.
Yeah.
And then when I got home, I like ran like once or twice, and then like I didn't for a while, for like I think it was like 2 months. And then like 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling the urge to run again. So I went out, ran 1.5 miles, and like, no, I didn't go run 10 miles, but it's like, I remember from my starting point where I could not run. It took me probably like 2 months to be able to run 1 mile without stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took all this time off of running, and I picked it up, and I still maintained all that progress that I had made. So like, just because you quit something, just because you take a little break from something, like that progress you made, like isn't lost.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Let's wrap up with travel. You love to travel. I love to travel.
Yeah.
Tell me your favorite place. And for those of you listening, like Sarah, so Stacy now lives in Paris. And Sarah lived in New Zealand. So I don't want you to say those places. I want you to give me somewhere else that you
darn it.
that you have traveled to that you love, because we're gonna just assume that you love Paris and that you love New Zealand.
Okay, that's a good assumption.
Very fair.
Okay. Oh, it's so hard. I know what Stacey's gonna say, so I won't say that. I'll say something different. Hawaii. I love Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Stacy, what are you gonna say? Bali. Okay. What are like
I just love it.
what are 2 places, like one each, like that's really high on your bucket list still to go that you haven't been to?
Either like Iceland, Norway, like somewhere, one of those things, like seeing like the Northern Lights, like one of those kind of like countries. I would love to go to Thailand too. We haven't it's a place that we've like talked about, like, oh, we'd love to do that one day, and we haven't done it. So like I think Thailand too. That's up there. Like I'd love
Thailand. It's amazing. Yeah.
For me.
Oh, and one more place I'd love to go on safari.
Yeah.
A whole itinerary plan based off of like a 2007 Vogue article with Keira Knightley, and I like want to go to that exact Connor's 1920 safari camp, and I will get there one day. So that's actually my bucket list.
That's amazing. I love that. That's amazing. Good for you.
While you're talking.
Okay, I was thinking like when Sarah, you said the Vogue article. Okay, like when Instagram first came out, I still remember like the one travel influencer that influenced me the most was World of Wanderlust. And I still remember every country that she's been to. Like that was my like, when I started really traveling, that was who I went to for my inspo. And it is so interesting that like that one person or that one piece of content can really like inspire you so much. So love it.
Yeah.
And I like love fashion. So like in addition to seeing like obviously like the places that she was at in Safari, I can still remember every outfit she wore.
I love it.
That, like 7-page spread. And I was like, okay, I gotta find these same outfits. Like this when I go, and I gotta go to Giraffe Manor, and I gotta do all the things that she did so that I can like just recreate this whole thing.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, Stacy.
Okay, I've been trying to think. Okay, well, I mean, I would also like to go to Thailand. I really want to. I still haven't been to Provence in the south of France. Can I still say something in France? And
sure.
There's like some islands that I can't remember what they're called, but they're close to in like Malaysia. I would like to like explore. But I haven't been to Malaysia. The closest I've been to is Singapore. So there's some areas there, but it's lame because I don't
love it.
But yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name.
Yeah.
I think I know, but I don't know the name either. It's like, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's okay. It's the general area. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Thank you guys for coming on. I had so much fun chatting with you. Where can people find you?
Okay, so our website is livewellandwhole.com. And the Instagram that we will be most active on now is called Well and Whole Creative over there. Let's see.
We also have our other shared account is at Sara and Stacy.
Yeah.
And
We have a lot of stuff.
same.
Yeah.
But Sara, if people want to find out about your bookbinding and everything, where can they, do you have something for that?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram and I have an Etsy, and Meraki is the name. It's Meraki, and then the period bindery. So that's my username for Instagram and also for Etsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will link those in the show notes.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. It was such a pleasure to be coached by you today. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to Clocked Out, Life Beyond the Bedside. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you could take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow nurse who needs to hear it. For more on thriving beyond the bedside, make sure to follow along on Instagram and check out Passports and Preemies, where we talk travel, wellness, and building a life that works for you.